The only way they can do anything, it can do anything, evil itself, is by manipulating people who have abandoned God's love, trust, fear, rules. That's it. That's literally how it works. I know I talk about God a lot, and sometimes people are like, before, I don't really get it anymore because I think people are seeing it, but they're like, enough with the God talk. You pipe some great gravy, but come on, enough of the God talk. I'm like, you still thinking that way? Because fear God only is like, armor doesn't begin to explain it. Like, you don't get to see anything if you're afraid. If you're afraid from nonsense, if you're afraid from wizard tricks, dude, the spells themselves require fear. Without the fear, the spell doesn't work at all. Like every single spell, like even spells amongst people that appear to be politically aligned with you, whenever they start getting really, this has been a process for all of us, and I'm still on the road. I mean, not that long ago, there's been nights when I've streamed or, been real agitated and escalated. Let me tell you a quick story about how I know this is true. It's a personal story, but I really think it was a changing point in my entire life. So for those of you that don't know, there's been a series of, I don't know where it starts. It could be a psyop spell that like just really dumb gammas bought. I have no idea how it works, or it was just gammas. But really, really terrible people that were just consumed with evil would send cops to my house based on horrible accusations or animal control or all this stuff. I've been dealing with it for a while. It doesn't happen anymore, obviously. But CPS, Child Protective Services, just these false reports are filed. They come, the first round was like, they had to come within 24 hours because all the threats and all that. And then a week later, they were going to come do their evaluation. And any parent out there knows that's the biggest fear you can, I mean, that's so terrifying. Like on the surface, like what matters more than your kids? Like when you see this thing in the distance, and all your fears can just start building and stuff, right? And even though you realize that you are, like, I've never even been accused of a misdemeanor. We have a immaculate, wonderful family and home and reputation and all of it, but it doesn't matter. It's still like in a week you will be judged by CPS, and they have the power to take your children because of anonymous evil people trying to manipulate the system itself, right? Okay, so there's two paths. I was starting to get really frustrated. Like when I get scared, I realize now I get angry. I think about, I don't get like scared. I don't get like, oh no. My fear translates really quickly to anger. And so I'm pacing. I'm like just getting really frustrated. And Amy's like, love, you're a good dad. I'm like, I know, but what if the CPS and there could be this cabal and it could be this deep statement, your imagination just goes crazy. And she goes, love, you're a good dad. She goes, pray. And she was right. So I said, I said a prayer, and I thought about it. I said, I knew that God, that we serve God, and it's only him that I should be afraid of. And I felt the peace that came from that. And here's the irony. And then they came and we sat down, we had the full evaluation, everything, and they were very apologetic, wrote a great report. We start a case against who potentially did it. It's tough to track, but they're all very, very cool. Everything went awesome. And here's the lesson. If I had feared them more than God, what could have happened? I could have been agitated and angry. What happens when you don't take that lesson very, very seriously? The reason I was polite and nice and honest and we could all talk, listen, it's tough. Like when you really, now with hindsight, it's, if anything, CPS, when corrupt, can prey on the extremely economically vulnerable in general. It's typically well-intended, overworked bureaucrats who wish they could do more, actually. I really wasn't in a crosshairs, but I didn't know that. So because of my demeanor, my lack of fear, my lack of anger, my understanding, you know how easy it could have been to me like angry at them? People that are just doing their job based on the information they're given. Do you understand how important this stuff is? Like if I had feared them, if I had feared what could happen to me because of man, evil or good, doesn't matter. Evil does not root in men. Men can be corrupted by it, but the person is not your enemy. Our battle is not of flesh and blood. And that event was one of the resulting blessing was so profound. It was such a test where it's like, if I had taken it as my job to fight the evil, my job to protect my kids, I would have failed. I don't think they would have. There's literally, at this point, I realize there's like zero chance that they would have just like taken my kids, but that starts something. Maybe they're in the report, it's like, everything checks out, but he was just yelling about Jews or something, you know what I'm saying? And so like, you really can't outthink that. And so when I say fear God only, and they're like, well, you don't know, or you fear that, I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, if you are in the world of fear, and I've been in some scary situations in my life, never, ever in a situation like you have a week to think about your CPS coming to analyze your life when you think there's a chance that there's like cabals after you and like you don't trust the state. Like that's, and your kids are innocently playing in your living room and you're like, that's like level 50 fear setting. Because you have all this time to think, you have all this time to ponder, and and your imagination kicks in, all your Hollywood movie scenes kick in. Oh, what could happen? Who's really behind this? Like what? And it's like, no, I don't fear CPS. My children are God's children. I am their shepherd and father. God gave me my children because of my faith in Him and trust. And if you really see this, it's so true. It's like when people don't fear or trust or listen to God, they don't even have kids because they think that the global warming's coming, or they think that population is the problem, and they're vegan. They're so glad they aborted that kid or else they couldn't get that management job at that company that hates them. Like literally, it's true to a point where being able to see it has been so helpful to me. The one downside is seeing how many people are self-destructing for no reason. But it's not my job to save them. I think some like people in the truth conspiracy type world, a lot of their pain, it comes from them thinking it's their job to wake people up. It's their job to save people from themselves. The irony of that is the more they think that, the more agitated, scared, frantic they get. So they don't see things. They can make mistakes. Their energy turns people off. It makes people scared. It makes people think they're crazy. And so then that has a feedback loop where they then go, wow, people think I'm crazy. You're crazy for not seeing Building 7, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not your job to save people. Let the dead bury the dead. Jesus said that. The irony is, if you trust that, more people will be saved. Because if you simply have the gratitude and joy that comes from fearing God only and not participating in endless sin that causes depression, agitation, envy, all that, you will smile more. You will be more fun to be around. Your insights will help people. They won't hurt people. And when you do that, more people, it's so interesting. It's so fucking interesting. You know what I'm saying? Imagine if Hillary ran CPS. You don't understand. It doesn't matter. Because when the wicked try to overtake God, they can't do it because they're wrong. Like they can't create, it always backfires. The only way they can do anything, evil itself, is by manipulating people who have abandoned God's love, trust, fear, rules. That's it. That's literally how it works.